This episode of What the Tech is brought to you by Harry's. For guys like you who want a great shave experience at a fraction of what you're paying. Go to harrys.com and get $5 off your first purchase by entering the code WhatTheTech when you check out.
What the Tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarin. Of course, with me as always is the one, the only, the magnificent Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Well, okay.
You are the magnificent Paul Thurrott.
Like the Wizard of Oz.
You are like the Wizard of Oz. I ran into a fan of the show on Thursday. I went to Comic-Con.
Okay.
And I got approached by a guy that was dressed up as a character that I'm not really familiar with. I didn't even ask him what it was. It was a little terrifying. And he goes, "Hey, tell Paul I say hi." And I go, "Paul who?" Because it didn't ready. He goes, Paul Thurrott, the guy you do a show with every week. And I said, "Thanks." And then I just walked away because he was running off. So whoever you are, thank you for that. Thank you for listening. You are the one weird guy in a costume that approached me on Thursday.
You know, I had made this connection somewhere. I don't remember where, but I was saying, you know, it's interesting, like people who create anything, there seems to be like a lot of overlap. So there are people who like make music and are programmers.
Yeah.
Or people who are artists and they also make music or are programmers or are all three of those things or whatever. And I guess on the flip side, like it's perhaps not surprising that people who would be into like Battlestar Galactica and graphic novels and you know, every Marvel superhero comic book movie that's ever come out, like, you know, would be into technology.
You know what it is? It's not even like I didn't see any Wolverines or Spider-Mans.
Yeah.
I saw like really obscure references. Like it's in now. That's in. And the thing that made me feel really old, right? Like every year you see like Star Trek, right? Or like you'll see like Star Wars guys. Like you'll see stuff that you recognize and it's universally recognizable. And for us, like for my generation, like Star Wars was the generation prior, you know, like that was your stuff.
It's not the cultural touchstone.
Yes. You know what this generation's is? Power Rangers.
Well,
There
Power
were
Rangers
so
is
many 20-year-olds out there, and it's ironic to them, right? Like they were probably kids when it came out.
I was fascinated by Power Rangers, you know, and I think part of it was just how awful it was.
Well, they dubbed it was a Japanese show. I don't know if it was the same name, but they just
when
took
I was
the
a
clips.
kid, you know, because we had very limited entertainment options when I was a kid. I don't remember the names of these things,
A
unfortunately.
stick and a can.
Well, no. I mean, we had like some Japanese entertainment that had kind of made its way to the United States, but it was always cartoons. And so there was the cartoon about the space. It was a battleship, but it was in space, and it was heading for some distant planet. And the captain was like this sea captain looking guy with a white beard and a, you know, captain's hat like you would see from in the old sea days. And I love that show. And then there was an earlier cartoon that was obviously done by the same or in the same style of animation or even by the same company that was like this team of people like Black Hawk and Nighthawk or whatever they were. And they would fly around and get in giant robots and fight and stuff. And but I mean, this was like 30 years ago.
Yeah, I guess I wonder how many of those references are happening now. You know, like kids like,
well, I don't think as many because they don't have the commonality. You know, like when I was a kid, like you know, we had 3 major TV stations and everyone watched them, and we all saw the same stuff on Saturday morning. We all watched the same cartoons.
I guess we had a lot more when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I mean
Well, it makes it harder to find common memories.
Yeah, you know, my favorite TV show as a kid was Pee-wee's Playhouse, and that explains so much about me. It explains so much about my life and who I am. I grew up on Pee-wee's Playhouse. Yeah. You know, TV messes you up, Paul. It's a fact. It happens.
That's fair.
So I was at Comic-Con. Obviously, I'll talk about that in the post show because I had a semi panic attack, and I'll touch on that afterwards because it has nothing to do with technology and what's happening in tech. But before we go into our show, and before we go into our show notes, there's a lot to talk about. I want to talk about Google with you because you had a phenomenal post on your website about Google, kind of their strategy against Amazon. I wanted to break this down with you and give you my idea, and you tell me if you think this is stupid.
Okay.
Okay. But before we do that, I want to thank a new sponsor to the show, and that's Harry's. Nope, wrong one. There you go. And it's Harry's. What is Harry's, you ask? Well, if you're a guy and you shave, this is something you should look at because as someone with a beard, I've had a lot of trouble finding a razor that works for me over years. I've tried all the mocks. I've tried every single one of these crazy 15 blade systems, and they just really work for me. Harry sent over the Winston, and I use this thing, and it's a triple blade system. So at first, I said, it's going to be a little too rough on me because under my neck here, it just cuts me up. So I use a very specific razor 99% of the time when I have to, disposable razor. And I used this razor, and it was great. So I realized it's not the blading systems that don't work for me. It's the blades. They're just not great when you go to the store. And if you're buying an expensive blade, one of these replaceable ones, you're treated like a criminal when they hide it behind a plexiglass, behind a cabinet. You have to call someone to get it. It's the most uncomfortable experience ever. And all you want to do is buy the razor and just leave. Well, at Harry's, you don't have to deal with that. It's mailed to your house. Shipping is free. All this stuff is made in Germany in their factory, so they ship directly from there. It's engineered for sharpness and high performance, and they last a while. They show up at your door, easy breezy, no problems. And here's a great deal they're offering. If you use our code, WhatTheTech, when you check out, you get $5 off your first purchase. Now, they have other stuff, too, so it's not only about razors here. Let me go here. So they have foaming shaving gel, aftershave moisturizers. They got different kits. And if you're a guy that doesn't really care about shaving, this is a great gift for the holiday, I'll tell you that. Their story is great. It's the exact situation that I said, happens to all of us that buy razors, buy the expensive stuff. You go to the store and you're waiting there, and it's a horrible experience. See how excited my dog is getting about the razors, Paul? He's just standing up. He knows what the deal is. So the story is that these guys, one of the founders, someone just showed up here. He went to the store to get a razor, and he had to wait there for like 15 minutes till someone opened it up. And he said, there has to be a better system here. There has to be a better way to do this. So, guys, check it out. Harrys.com. Use the code WhatTheTech at checkout. Get $5 off. They have a number of products. And a couple days ago, so you guys were tweeting me, and continue to do that. Send me your emails about your experience buying the product. The company loves to hear this stuff, and it actually helps them along the way, knowing what's working and what doesn't. They're a great company, Harrys.com. Support them, and because they support us. And that's it, guys. That's it. We're done with the show now. See you guys later. That's all it was for. This entire see you next week. It was bizarre. The dog stood up, an intern showed up. Whole thing happening here at the GFQ Network while we're doing it. Paul, I want to talk to you about Google because you posted this, and I was actually writing in the notes, and you tend to yell at me when I bring something up, and you're like, I wrote that like 2 weeks ago, Andrew. And I did that twice to you.
I'm sorry. I don't actually yell at you.
No, I know. Because you're so on top of this stuff. So I tried to message Paul, and I'm like, hey, Paul, did you see this? Like, yeah, I saw it like 3 weeks ago.
That's right.
I mean,
here's the article I wrote about it previously. Thank you for reading my site, you dirtbag.
Yeah, I thought you were a fan of the website.
Yeah.
So you had this article about Google, and Google announced the other day that they're renaming their store delivery service. I wasn't even aware that they were continuing with this. I know the project existed.
I thought this was weird too.
I just didn't understand that they were doing something with it. It's called Google Express now. And they've expanded to 3 additional cities: Chicago, Boston, D.C., and I believe they're in San Francisco.
Yeah,
they're not in
New York.
Not where I am.
Yeah, no, parts of New York. They're very specific. It's parts. They're specifically vague. It's parts of New York, not New York.
Yeah. So I think they're adding a bunch more cities, but the way that this works, it's a subscription service. You sign up, you buy stuff through it, and they deliver it to you for free.
Well, by the way, it's optionally a subscription service. You can also just pay a per delivery fee if you just want to do it occasionally.
So what's a subscription like for this service?
I assume it's like Amazon Prime,
Okay.
right? Not exactly, but I mean, I think that instead of paying a per delivery charge, you just pay the one charge for delivery.
And listen, this is phenomenal for a lot of people in big cities because if you live in a big city like New York City or San Francisco, there's a good chance you just take public transportation everywhere. And if you have to do food shopping, it's very difficult to kind of cart everything home.
You know, I don't see these things here. I mean, of course, we live in Dedham, so it's not in Boston anyway. But looking at their description of the service, my understanding of it is that Google has trucks, and you order things, and the trucks drive around, and they actually go to the stores and they buy those things, and then they deliver them to your house. Like they literally go to local businesses and national businesses that are local. So. Not everyone is participating, obviously, but whatever those businesses are, like Stop and Shop, I know is one that is from the Boston area, and then national chains, and I can't pull one off the top of my head, but whoever they may be, Barnes & Noble was one of them. So you could literally, I guess, go to Google Express and say, I would like a head of lettuce, and I would like this Harry Potter book, and I believe that someone would drive to those. I'm not saying that one guy would just drive to those two places and then go to your house, but those things would be bought at those stores, I think.
Yeah.
Is that how it works? I mean, is this like you remember the .com bubble services? New York City had some of these where you could call, not call them up. You'd go to the website and you would say, I would like a candy bar. And they would go to the store, buy you a candy bar. Some kid would run it over to your.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that still exists. I mean, it's still happening now.
But is that what this is? Is that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's how I took it. Is that literally what this is?
So the way this kind of service exists for restaurants that don't have a delivery guy in-house. So over here, I think it's like Grubhub. I could be making that up. I mean, it's like Grub something or Hub something.
It's definitely a Grubhub.
Is there a Grubhub?
I don't know if it's what that is, but there is a Grubhub.
Let's
absolutely.
see. Grubhub. Yeah, food delivery, restaurant takeout. So your company contacts this, Grubhub, and if there's plenty of restaurants in that neighborhood, there will be a guy on call in that neighborhood. Right. So he'll get the message that there's a delivery, and he'll do the delivery for you. Great idea. So I kind of think it's that kind of service where you contact Google, and you sign up with them, and they do the delivery for you, and they just have some guy in that neighborhood that does it. I'm assuming that's how it would work, really. How else would it work if you're not using... like a shipping service.
I don't know. I'm really curious about it, but
it's some guy in a van,
right?
That's bringing me stuff.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm.
So here's where it gets interesting. This specific concept and Google's, I guess, future when it comes to search, they look at Amazon as competition, and I really wanted you to break that down for me because I can't fathom how, as far as search goes, they're affecting Google. I guess in the sense that people aren't going to Google to find a store that sells something. People just go to Amazon and put it into Amazon and see if they have it.
Google's obviously a fascinating company, right? I mean, they are in Europe trying to explain over and over again to people that are concerned about privacy that they are not the gateway to the internet. That is not who we are. And yet every time they're not the gateway to the internet, man, they get really upset about that.
Yeah.
This is an example of that, right? There was a blog post that I actually missed the other day from the chairman of the company, Eric Schmidt, who said, and I'll actually just read what he said because it's to the point. Many people think our main competition is Bing or Yahoo, but really our biggest search competitor is Amazon. People don't think of Amazon as search, but if you're looking for something to buy, you're more often than not looking for it on Amazon. They, meaning Amazon, are answering users' questions and searches just as we are. And so there's that aspect to it. Now, I mean,
are they really?
Well, yes, because there's some, I have to say there's something to be said to this because one of the, I'm going to be hard pressed to come up with a good example for this one. I apologize. But one of the things I often say very, very generally when I'm complaining about computer user interfaces is that they will put the onus on the user to do the hard work. And that isn't that the point of computers to make things easier and
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera? So you sit down in front of your computer or your tablet or your smartphone, and you're going to find something, whatever it may be, right? It could be a location that you want to get to using maps. It could be a book that you want to buy. It could be the answer. What is Anne Hathaway's middle name? What year was my friend John born? You know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like right now, or I would say up till now, one of the big problems with that is you would go to different places to do those things. You'd go to some map app or some map service to find the location, et cetera, et cetera. So these Google and Bing and I guess Yahoo, I'm not really sure what Yahoo's doing, but these organizations are trying to consolidate all that stuff into one thing. And Google does a good job of that on mobile, where you can just press a button. And Apple does the same thing with Siri, where it's aggregating results from all these different things and understanding by context what you mean and what services might be helpful for finding that information, whatever it might be. But when it comes to buying things, I at least in the United States, I do think it's fair to say a lot of people just go to that, go to Amazon. They don't think about it.
To buy
I got to
something.
buy something. I got to buy a thing. I'm going to go to Amazon.
I'm gonna get, and you're absolutely right, because I had to buy an O2 sensor for my old car. Oh, just over on Saturday, I had to do this. Okay, I didn't go to Google. I went to Amazon. I put in O2 sensor 2000 front O2 sensor 2001 Subaru Impreza.
Right.
Now, Amazon is phenomenal for a lot of things. Unfortunately, buying certain car parts, it's not that great because
But you started at Amazon.
I started at Amazon.
And by the way, if you had found it, I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say, assuming it wasn't crazy expensive, you would have just bought it.
I don't even if it was like $10 difference between this and a
Well,
part.
you wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
I think my point is, unless it's crazy, like for example, I could go look at my past 10 previous Amazon physical purchases, whatever they may be.
Yeah.
I actually have no idea what they are, but I guarantee you at the time of that purchase, if I had done a little bit of research, I probably could have shaved a couple of bucks off of every single one of those purchases, or at least of most of them. So like, why don't I do that? Why don't you do that? Why don't most people do that? Because it's work.
It's a lot of work. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, Paul. I couldn't find, they didn't have it on Amazon.
Well,
so I ended up searching on Google.
Yeah.
And it took me
It's awful.
35 minutes to find that Pep Boy has it. And then I had to search Pep Boy and see if it's the right part.
Yeah.
I ended up having to call Pep Boys, and they had to search and then call me back. So the entire process was like it was 1995.
The one thing that, that I've noticed though with Google, and this is not unique to Google, but when they take something that someone else does and they always put it on the web, right? Because their primary interface is the web. I mean, obviously that will probably change to mobile over time, but those interfaces are often terrible.
Yeah.
So if you look at Google Express, and I have to look at the San Francisco version of it.
Yeah, they say that you could try it out and use
Just to
San
see it.
Francisco.
I randomly deliver stuff all over San Francisco just to test the service. It's usually pretty good stuff, but it's the interface is not that attractive. It kind of reminds me of navigating like the Google Play Music interface to find music. It's like this web-based interface because that's what they do, and it's like I have a feeling that the mobile app interfaces for these things are probably pretty good. I assume there is one for Express. I haven't even looked for it, but that's a weird part of it. And frankly, that's actually an area where I think Amazon does pretty poorly. Amazon only, well, obviously they have apps as well, but primarily through the web. Have you ever browsed the music, on Amazon.com?
It's not that great.
It's
Yeah.
awful.
It's very old.
They probably have
looking.
everything. It's terrible.
And
So this
that's
is an
why
area where all
iTunes-
these places can improve dramatically.
Well, that's why iTunes is still, kicking butt when it comes to music, is because
Yeah.
the user experience, and regardless of what you think of what iTunes is like and the application, how crummy it is, but the user experience as far as going there, searching for a song and clicking buy is much better than what Amazon is doing and what Google is doing. I can't really speak about Microsoft because I don't really buy music that often. People, by the way, now there's an entire discussion in the chat room about the Pep Boy that I went to North Flushing Pep Boys, and that's exactly where I found the part. That's so funny.
People
are
how do
just
they know that?
because they know where I live. People know, so they're guessing that that's the location. So it's really funny. But that goes back to what we were saying. The experience was awful outside of Google. So Google is losing traction because every time you go to Amazon, they're missing out on that ad sale that they have on top of that search.
Right. Yep. That's exactly right.
And
if Amazon and Google just partnered and Google put ads on Amazon,
oh my God,
we would never be seeing this.
And you know what Google does now?
This ridiculous service, you know.
Google is starting to, I was reading about this, Google is starting to strip the Amazon affiliate links from emails.
Oh, jeez.
And Facebook does the same. Facebook strips it at times. I haven't had it happen to me in a while, but I sent someone a link and they stripped the URL, and I believe they're inserting their own.
Wow.
So they are benefiting from Amazon sales, obviously. They are doing some stuff like that. I don't know if they're continuing to do it. I read an entire thread about it. But here's the other thing, Paul, that I want to get your opinion on this. I no longer, if it's if I want to look up when was Paul Thurrott born, I'll go to Google. That's a simple boom, boom, boom thing. If I'm looking for a discussion on something very specific, or if I'm looking for information on something that is currently happening, I no longer go to Twitter or Google or Facebook for the information. I go to Reddit.
Yeah, right.
Reddit is taking a big chunk of this.
Reddit is definitely emerging as a competitor of sorts to Google.
I mean, they've become the front page of the internet. That's really how I see it.
What they've become is everyone talks about Wikipedia like Wikipedia is the Encyclopedia Galactic, to use another geek reference, since we were talking about that earlier. I actually think kind of Reddit is falling into that position instead. That because it is kind of a go-to. I don't actually use Reddit personally, but I understand its significance. The other thing too, by the way, is that we're just talking about the shopping thing because it came up today, but there are other things that I can't imagine anyone normal ever doing. On Google, getting the best tickets for a flight. Getting the best hotel reservations. Possibly combining those things into one special deal, which is something Expedia will do, maybe with a car. Obviously, you can do all of those things on Google. You can do all of them on Bing too, by the way. But I don't know what the reservation is, but I bet a lot of people don't do that, and I don't. And I'm not even sure I could explain.
Well, where do you go when you're you're looking for pricing for flights? I just go to JetBlue and I look at it.
Yeah, right. So it depends on what we're talking about. For domestic flights, I do, because I live in Boston, I fly JetBlue. I just go to JetBlue.com. Hotels, I'm all over the place. I mean, this is one area where I do a little bit of my own research, research. I'll often call a hotel directly,
and you'll probably get a better rate.
Yeah, I'll do that because that's important, obviously. But I've done the lazy Expedia thing, and that's worked out sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. I think we talked in the past about when you book an Expedia rate at a hotel, there are no upgrades to be had. No. There's no special treatment. You've already paid. They see that you were on Expedia. They can't and won't do anything for you.
Yeah.
So if your room isn't quite right, or you like a little upgrade or something and pay a little extra, that is not available to you.
And God forbid you have an issue with the hotel, they will not reimburse you the money.
Well, they can't. It's already been paid.
It's already been paid for, and Expedia won't refund you the money.
No. Yeah. And so Expedia can be very convenient, and it's a great service. I've been using it for over a decade, I'm sure. But the more you use something like that, the more you run into that kind of issue that we just described, and it makes you think. And so actually, I just saved a bunch of. Let me see if I can find these. There are a bunch of services, and I saved them in my browser to go and possibly look at these things like Yapta, Priceline, TripAdvisor, Trivago, Hipmonk, Get a Room, Kayak, Booking.com, Orbitz, Hotels.com, Tripos. It goes on and on and on. I actually don't go through every one of those. Obviously, there are some booking sites that aggregate other sites, so you get all the stuff together in one thing, which is can be convenient. But what this all boils down to is that booking travel can be traumatic, which sucks because booking travel should be doing something great. But it's something I would just never do. I would never go to Google and type in something like Barcelona, October 21 to 25.
Best rates.
That's not a Google search.
Well, I think that's where they're going to have to, think about the future of search and the way that we use search and the way that we use the internet. It's evolving. and it's getting a little bit more focused as far as like what we want and what we don't want. Google's not gonna benefit from me looking up a debate between who really was responsible for World War II. I'm just throwing something out there. That discussion is going to be very difficult to find. Something that's important. You're going to get a bunch of search. It's not going to be focused in. It's going to be a bunch of everything. While Reddit would be a very good place to look for that because there are subgroups on Reddit that specifically will discuss that topic. So something like Reddit goes a long way. But if I'm looking for a recipe for a pie,
an answer to a very specific question, or like a conversion.
Yeah.
I want to do how many Taiwanese wons or whatever the currency is. I guess it's South Korean, whatever it is. Wons earn $1 or vice versa, or
Google. There you go.
Tablespoons into like those things. That's a simple question and answer.
And also, mobile's totally changing that. Mobile is a totally different way to do search. They're going to have some problems in the next decade when it comes to how they're monetizing on search.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it's not the same. It's not what it was. Everybody was going to Google and everybody was searching a couple of years ago for everything. Now we're a little bit smarter and we're a little bit quicker when it comes to search. They benefit from you.
Still got to do a lot of work, though. I think that's the issue. I mean, you still got to think, like we just talked about, like travel is a great example. Like, all right, I'm going to book travel. We all have our own little toolkits for that, I guess. Some people like this site, some people like these sites, some people actually, do a bunch of research, whatever it is. I mean, you really, and for a lot of people, most people don't travel several times a year. So maybe you go on that one big trip a year. I mean, how easy would it be to screw that thing up? And that's like your one big trip for the year. It's the type of thing you don't want to screw up. It is kind of an issue.
It is. So, but I don't know. I mean, do you think Google is, by saying that Amazon is a major competitor for them as far as search goes, does this mean that Google's going to try to get into the business that Amazon's in, and that's not really make money from selling stuff?
Well, right. So, what are the ways that we could advantage Google against Amazon? Right. One would be to take away dollars from them in the form of whatever. You can do that directly by making those dollars yourself. You can also make them indirectly by making sure they don't make them. I mean, that's a little bit of, it sounds spiteful, but I mean, it's one of the ways that you can harm another company. Problem is Amazon's humongous, just like Google, and they have a lot of money to burn. It's worth noting that Amazon got into Google's businesses before Google did the reverse, right? Amazon somehow, through some bizarre set of circumstances, is the global leader in enterprise cloud computing somehow right now. And how that came about is an interesting story, but it's, for a company like Google, that has to be completely unacceptable. Google bought Twitch out from under Amazon recently for almost $1 billion.
Amazon bought it bought it. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what I said?
You said it the reverse.
Sorry. Amazon bought it out from under Google. Why the heck would Amazon want Twitch? Part of the reason might have been to keep it away from Google.
And part of it is, think about the ads, right? Think of the ads that Amazon
In other
could
words,
do.
That's another place where Amazon could lock up ads and then move on to the next thing. So,
and by the way, they're going to be very effective ads. If you think about it, Google's ad program is buy-ins. So can you imagine if with Amazon, they're targeting specific products in their Amazon store to their user base? I mean, it's all internal ads. You're going to see a huge help from that. So for Amazon, it kind of made sense in that sense. But again, it's kind of bizarre that Amazon is a company that has been here for a long time and they're not making any money. I mean, they're making money, but they're losing money also. Their profit margins are not really high on anything that they sell because they're trying to undercut everybody.
Right. Well, I mean, that's it's a dangerous kind of company to have roaming out there in the world, because that's, they're very aggressive. So I don't know. We'll see how this goes. I mean, Google, it sounds weird to hear that Google is going after Amazon product delivery, physical product delivery, local product delivery, but I think they kind of have to. Yeah, I think they kind of have to.
I think the way that Google would kind of be able to compete with them, like you have companies like Newegg, for example.
Yeah.
Who's going, and I would love to know, why would you go to Newegg when you could buy it on Amazon?
Well, I mean, so I mean, I've purchased things on Newegg, and Newegg again. I think this boils down to that the onus is on the user thing. I mean, I talked about I'm gonna book a flight or a flight, a trip, in a rental car. I'm sorry, a flight, a hotel, and a rental car for some kind of a trip. So, what's the thought process there? When I'm going to buy an SSD drive, when I'm going to buy an OEM version of Windows, I mean, there are certain products I actually do think Newegg. I mean, for whatever reason.
And I don't. I mean, I used to. I used to think Newegg, Tiger Direct, whatever, the computer shops.
I would compare Amazon in that case,
Well, how about buy.com? Who's going there?
Well, I'm not personally, but I mean, obviously people do. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how these things all rate compared to each other.
Yeah, I would love to know why someone would buy something from, Newegg, for example, when you could get it for the same price.
Well, assuming you could.
Assuming you can, on Amazon. I mean,
one of the reasons, by the way, you go to Amazon, even if the price is a little different, is you pay for Amazon Prime. So you get that second-day shipping for free. There are certainly advantages to that. And even if it's a couple of bucks less expensive at buy.com or Newegg or whatever, just get it at Amazon. It's coming, 2 days or whatever.
Yeah.
It depends on the product. I mean, for the things I have a choice, I don't know. I think more often than not, I don't really think about it.
I just do Amazon for everything. I mean, everything. I actually get annoyed if I have to go somewhere else at this point.
Well, that's what I mean. It's convenience. Convenience is a big deal.
Yeah, goes a long way.
And I know there are people who are moaning about first world problems and all that kind of stuff, but it is a big deal. So.
Yeah. Hey guys, since we're on the Amazon topic, if you want to help the show out, you could use our link. We are part of the Amazon affiliate link program, and we get a tiny little credit every time you buy something. If you go to Amazon, gfq.co/Amazon, or if you click on the banner on our website, bookmark it, and whenever you buy something on Amazon, we get a tiny little credit, a couple % here and there, and it really helps us out. We're going to be redoing this entire studio. I'm painting the walls, and I'm doing something pretty cool. We're working on it now. So in January, when we do that, we're going to buy everything on Amazon. And it's going to be what you guys have been funding us. So that's gfq.co/Amazon, or just click on a banner and bookmark it, and you can do it that way. Also, guys, Paul and I have a Patreon campaign. This is the portion where I talk about the stuff that we're doing. We have a Patreon campaign, patreon.com/whatthetech. Right now, we are over $500, $530-something per show. In return, we do a bonus show each and every week following What the Tech. It's called What the Talk. I don't know what we're going to talk about, Paul. I have a couple ideas this week, actually. A couple ideas we're going to talk about. And that's exclusive on patreon.com. If you go to patreon.com/whatthetech and you fund it, whatever you fund is fine. 5 cents, 10 cents, 25 cents. We suggest $1 a show, but if you can't squeeze out $1, no biggie. You do whatever you want, and we are totally gracious, and we accept it. And you get the bonus show. You don't have to fund the show. You can if you want to. And we have certain goals. When we hit certain goals, we do bonuses. Like next week, we're going to be doing the call-in show. I really wasn't prepared to do it this week, so I bumped it to next week. But once a month, we do a call-in show. You guys call in. We talk about whatever. It doesn't have to be tech. It could be whatever. You can tell me I suck if you want. I'll be okay with that. Patreon.com/whatthetech is the site, so check it out. Paul, we're a couple weeks into the Windows 10 technical preview.
Mm-hmm.
And here's some stats. 1 million users in about 10 days, which is really good.
Yep.
Really impressive, actually. 200,000 pieces of user feedback, which...
3 or 4 of them were probably pretty good, too. So
what was that?
3 or 4 of them were probably pretty good.
Yeah, and they probably listened to one of them. So people are actually participating in this, and they actually are submitting bugs or any kind of feedback about the operating system. Most installs are on real PCs. What do they mean by that, Paul?
They're not in virtual machines.
They're not? Okay,
so,
okay.
Yeah. In other words, and by the way, that is actually somewhat notable. It's most people who are kind of tech enthusiasts that would be interested in doing this kind of testing have access to virtual machine technology, on a Mac, on a PC in Hyper-V, maybe in Windows 8, on a server even. And over 2/3 of the installs are actually on like actual PCs.
Yeah,
Or
so
just-
64% are installed on actual PCs. The remainder is going to be, a virtual environment like Hyper-V. I have yet to install it, so I'm
have
actually
installed it on everything.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could do that. I'm going to install it on this Lenovo that I have here because I had to check about certain drivers, and I was told that they will work on this. So I'm fine. I'm going to install it on this Lenovo that came with Windows 8, and it was such a bad experience, I had to go back to Windows 7 because the trackpad was awful on this.
Right.
I bought it a couple of years ago for Jess, and she never used it. Now it's just I look at the chat room on this. That's all I do on this computer. So it'll be a great test environment for me. App launches are up. Explain that.
So one of the problems with Windows 8, and this is something that they obviously don't talk about a lot because it reflects negatively on Windows 8, is that people aren't running those apps. The mobile apps, the universal apps, as we now call them. The modern apps, the Metro apps, the immersive apps, the Windows Store apps. They have many names, but in Windows 8, you install the OS on a regular PC like this screen I have here, 27 inches, and the weather app runs full screen. It's a little ridiculous. It's like this gigantus, full screen app. It doesn't make any sense. And so people look at those things and they're like, so that's the end of that. And then they go back to their desktop applications, and that's what they did. So obviously one of the big, I don't want to call it innovations, but one of the big improvements in Windows 10 is you can run those apps on the desktop. They can be floating windows. They can be normally maximized windows. They can be full screen if you want them to be full screen, but you can run them side by side with other applications like people expect on the desktop. And now, people are actually starting to use these things. And I'm really hoping in the future updates, they improve the apps to make them a little more friendly to desktop PC users, keyboard mouse users. But they have various statistics. I only put a few in here, but 68% of people testing this build are launching more than 7 apps per day. I mean, I have to say, I use Windows 8, or I had been using Windows 8 every single day for the past 2 years. On this computer, I don't ever run those apps, ever.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, but 7 a day.
They also said that a new build is coming soon.
Yeah.
Is this going to be the technical preview build, or is this going to be the one that we're kind of anticipating in January that's more for
No, I think we're going to see several builds before the consumer build. I think this is just an update to the existing build.
What's the feedback been like? Have you heard anything? Are people...
No, but I guess it would be possible to go and look at it, right? Because a lot of this is publicly facing. If you go to their support forums, and you can
because this is targeting enterprise. This release was
it is, but obviously they want anyone who's capable of testing this. They want feedback, and there's been interesting feedback. I published an article last week about like the top 10 items of feedback and so forth, and some of it's very useful, some of it's silly, as you would expect. There's feedback that's useless. You should drop the NT kernel and adopt.
Yeah, they're gonna do that now. I would love them to be like, you know what, we're gonna do that, but we're delaying the release by about a year.
Yeah, we are gonna go free, free BSD, but
yeah.
I don't know, I can only imagine what that must be like for Microsoft, because I know what it's like for me on Twitter and my own website. Like, I think people think you're kind of thin-skinned or something, or I'm in this case thin-skinned, but the truth is, like, I'm just really busy and you're not helping. You're doing the opposite of helping. It's just, I don't know if you think you're being funny or whatever, but trying to build something good here, so whatever. You're always going to get that kind of stuff.
Yeah. For them, I would expect that not necessarily, this is not working, like not bug reports, but overall satisfaction reports from enterprise users is kind of what they're looking for, because they need to convince people that this is the future. Look, we fixed everything. This is for you. Are you happy?
Yeah. So they haven't addressed this publicly per se, although I did just see a quote, and I'm trying to remember if this was Satya Nadella or somebody else, but somebody at Microsoft this past week, not Joe Belfiore, said something to that effect that, we wanted to provide something to enterprises. We're going to standardize on Windows 7 for many years to be able to give them an upgrade that makes sense to them and to those users, that they can upgrade a PC that was running Windows 7 with whatever applications are on there, come back the next day, Windows 10's on there, and people are like, oh, nice.
Yeah.
This is clearly familiar to me. It's obviously got some improvements, neat, and is newer and nicer and all that kind of stuff.
Pretty.
Not, oh my God, what happened? The start menu's gone. It's full screen apps now. What is this?
What is this Charms bar I see?
Yeah, I mean, let's say the reaction to Windows 8 wasn't quite what they were looking for, although that shouldn't have surprised anybody.
The other thing, right? Just think about the name change, right? They skipped over a version.
Yeah.
So I would love to see, 2 quarters in, what this has done to PC sales, just based on the fact that there may be people that think their computers are really old now because they have Windows 8 and now we're at Windows 10, so they're missing, that plays a big part, and it's dumb to think that. Like, I definitely think
it's even worse for Windows 7.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine? Like, you got a laptop, it has Windows 7, and now you're seeing all these ads for Windows 10. You go, wait a minute, 8, 9. I'm 3 versions behind.
It's funny. I think Windows 9 would have made would have been fine too, but they almost had to go with a number, right? Because the number provides that element you're talking about, where we have a well understood difference, right, as in progression.
People
but
could
it
count.
Also,
yeah.
They also can't use like a goofy name like they did with Vista. I think Vista ruined that. They couldn't have called this Windows Lumia, or some stupid name, Windows Lemon or Windows Yogurt or something, because people would have been like, huh, it's not clear from that name if that's newer than the thing I'm already running. But I do remember they had a stupid name like that, and that was that Vista thing, and that really sucked, and like they almost can't use a name like that.
I mean, they had 3 versions that didn't have a name. They didn't have a number. They had ME, XP, and Vista. Back to back.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
ME was a disaster. Well, ME was ME. It was bad.
Yeah,
it wasn't great. What was the reason that they killed the year with the naming?
Okay, so I always, when they first announced that, I thought it was a little arbitrary. Like the rationale for going to year naming was that people understood this convention from cars. People understood that a 98 Corolla was newer than a 95 Corolla.
Sure. But sometimes the 95 comes out in 94.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, there is an element to that, to it as well, because Microsoft will typically, when they used to use those kinds of names, would try to release it before the year occurred, or as early in that year as possible. You don't want to release a 2007 product late in 2007. But see, that's the problem. There's 2 problems with the year names. One is that it's very quickly the next year, and you feel like you're out of date, even though you might be running the very latest version, especially for products that are only updated every 3 years or so. If it's 1998 and you're still running Windows 95, that's starting to feel old, even though Microsoft hadn't necessarily released a new version of Windows, although, of course, in that case, they did.
It also had to have gotten really confusing at that time, because you had 95, you had 98, and then you had ME and 2000, but 2000 was NT, and it wasn't consumer. Yeah. Like, I ran Windows 2000 for a long time. I mean, I stuck with 2000 forever, but
yeah,
I think a lot of people
very upset about that naming thing when they screwed up the Windows 2000 name.
But they're still doing the year for server.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the other problem with the year naming is that it sets the expectation that you're going to update it every year, because people do understand how cars use those names. They also understand that cars are updated every single year, and that, use the Corolla example. I don't know anything about Corollas, but a 1998 Corolla, a 1999 Corolla could be largely identical. That's how cars work often. They might change a few small things. The 2000 might be almost completely identical again. Maybe there's a different color or something. And then in 2001, for whatever reason, that's the major update, new platform, new body, new everything, whatever. People don't understand that, And so I think it was one of those things where it sounds like it makes sense, and it kind of does, because people understand cars. Yeah, okay, they do. But software is not cars. And by the way, version numbers work fine. People understand, like we've just been talking about, that 10 is not just bigger than 7; it's a lot bigger
It's a
than
lot
7.
bigger than 7.
It's a lot newer. You know,
Yeah.
people get that. It's easy. You don't. It doesn't matter. In fact, obfuscating the year that something came out actually makes sense. Why would you want to tie the release of Windows to a year? It just like I said, it makes it
It's
feel
silly.
old. A year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever.
Now, because they're
Done.
streamlining the operating system, have they said anything about Windows Phone? Are they going to go Windows Phone 10?
Yeah.
Or is it just Windows on the phone?
right? So they've not been completely clear about that, but my understanding, based on what they've said and also what I've heard on the side, is that Windows 10 will be on the phone. It will be a single version that targets both small tablets and phones. It will just be called Windows 10. You know, and just I want to be careful about what I say about this. So
if you can't say anything, don't say it.
it's So we're going to find out about that around the consumer release. Yeah.
Because then they're running into a little issue with that. Because
What do you mean?
with the server, with the numbers all across the platform? Because what if they're streamlining, that's one thing. But if they decide to do, let's say, Windows 10.1 for Windows Phone, and then
they'll always do those things.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there'll always be an update 1 or an update 2. You know, whatever. I don't think that stuff matters all that much. You know, just like on the Android side, you'll have KitKat, but even KitKat is not, I don't know the versions, but it's not 4.4.4. It's 4.4 point anything, right? Isn't it? Like, you know, KitKat can be various versions. I mean, I don't know that to mainstream consumers or people that matters. So you buy I think the expectation is when you buy a phone, it's like when you buy a PC, you get the latest version of Windows at that time, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You may have some people that know a little bit more about technology who say, you know, if you can wait a month, you might want to, because there's a new version coming out that will be on these new phones that sound pretty good, or whatever. So I don't think that's a concern.
It's interesting stuff, Paul. I'm hoping that this is kind of the renaissance of the PC era kind of coming back, where people are actually going to be like, okay, wow, time to upgrade, time to buy, and then you start seeing people buying new products.
Yeah. So renaissance is a little strong. I don't think we're going to see, you know, like a giant sales spike or whatever. I don't think
Paul,
PCs
I told you,
go back.
I have the fantasy where you have the guy holding the Windows 95 box over his head, you know, the mob.
Yeah.
I want that to happen with this.
So I don't think we're going to see that. That said, I think people who read my stuff in particular will understand that I welcome this change, because my perspective on Windows 8 was that it was insane. And it was funny because it was insane and fun. And I tried, like a lot of people, to kind of convert my work style into this new way of doing things. And the truth is, you know, on these traditional computers, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And this flip-flop, as some might call it, or this return to core values, or whatever, you know, however you want to say it, to me is something to be embraced, because months and months ago now, I had written this article that was basically, I think I titled it something that they renamed it because it wasn't a good SEO name, but it was, you know, the right tool for the job. And I basically said, you know, a lot of PC makers are building these devices that flip and, you know, do all these things. And ultimately, you're creating this device that's not ideal for any of those situations. And I said, the way things are going today, you could have a MacBook Air or a similarly sized Ultrabook, a small tablet of some kind, and your smartphone in a bag. And that is not a heavy or complex thing to carry around. I mean, it's not that bad. And each one of those devices does something really well that the others don't. And so why not just use the right tool? Like I appreciate the notion of consolidating and you know, stripping things down to the, you know, the barest possible collection of, you know, products and technologies and stuff. But, you know, like real world, it's like these things, I don't know. It's not necessarily possible.
Well, I mean, it's at a crossroads now, because we don't know what the future product is going to be currently. I mean, we kind of have an idea that obviously tablets are doing phenomenal, but which version of a tablet will it be?
Right.
You know, is it going to be for Microsoft? Obviously, in my opinion, I think it's going to be a Surface Pro style device with a better keyboard, and that's a feature of Windows, where when you detach it, it's the new UI, and when you put it in, it's desktop, and that's it.
But but the important thing to remember is that in Windows 10 especially, they're going to accommodate you regardless of how you prefer to work. And so there are some people, and it's probably a sizable group of people, meaning some hundreds of millions of people, are going to adopt that transforming PC type, and that is the way they're going to want to do things. And Windows will accommodate that. It will work like a tablet when you unplug the keyboard. It will work like a laptop when you plug it in, and that will be neat. But for the other people, the much bigger group of people that want to use it on a laptop or a desktop PC, it's going to work like Windows 7 did. And I think that's what they want.
And that's what I want.
Yeah, but and it'll be people who like the tablet too, by the way. Yeah. And if you have a tablet, it will work right there. I mean, I think that's the biggest success of Windows 10 is that it can accommodate all of those usage scenarios equally.
Yeah.
Windows 8 could not.
It couldn't accommodate a lot of things, Paul, for a lot of people.
It was workable. I mean, but it wasn't.
Well, it was a punch in the face for a lot of people. That's what it was. Windows 8, a punch in the face.
We all need to get punched.
It's a right hook when you least expected it.
Sure.
Paul, let's because we're running out of time. Apple event on Thursday.
Yeah.
This is the first time. There's so much weirdness happening. I'm very disappointed by this Apple event because it screwed up my entire week. Thursdays are my busiest day. And you know what? You know what? Apple, you screwed me up. Now I got to do coverage of this thing. And I'm moving shows all around to accommodate Apple.
Yeah.
Normally this event should be on a Tuesday. They're not doing it on a Tuesday for who knows what reason. My opinion, I think it's because they want to release the final version of Yosemite the day of the release. The day of the announcement. That's my guess.
Okay, yeah, I think
so.
That would.
GM has been out for a while.
Macs that are going to run Yosemite.
Yeah, so GM has been around for a while, a couple of weeks. I just got the preview version 6, which is GM.
Mm-hmm.
So that just came today. So I think they're doing that for a couple days. Everything's going to go well, and then they're going to upgrade everybody. So that's weird, in my opinion. I don't know why they did it on the Thursday, but
Thursday is weird.
Thursday's really weird. But what are they announcing other than an iPad? Do we have any idea?
Well, first of all, it's not an iPad, right? It could be multiple iPads.
Multiple iPads.
I mean, it's very clear that we're going to see at the very least an iPad mini with Retina and an iPad Air 2, both of which have Touch IDs.
Yes.
Okay, fine. This is an interesting thing for me because the Touch ID is wonderful. I love it. I've talked about this a lot. There's absolutely no way I'm spending hundreds of dollars on new iPads so I can get that one thing.
And it to be a
obviously
little
they'll
bit
have slightly faster processors and yada yada yada, whatever. But I don't actually see any way they can make this very interesting. And so we'll see what happens there. But of course, the rumored third device, if they do announce it, would be this iPad Pro or whatever they're calling it, 12 point something inch,
12.8.
12, okay, whatever it is, I mean, that's like a Surface Pro 3 device from them. I would assume that if they're going to do it, they're going to do something around a keyboard that integrates with it in a very intelligent way and isn't just a direct ripoff of what Microsoft is doing. So that's a kind of a wild card, but that's interesting, right?
I mean, here's my guess with that 12-inch display, that 12.8-inch display. They're going to announce a new Retina MacBook Air.
Actually,
it's going to be it's going to be bezel-less, and that's going to be no bezel at all. I mean, thin bezel.
Okay.
And if you think about it, you got an inch on each side of this bezel here. I'm looking at the screen because it's essentially the same screen. You're going to make it bigger, and you're going to go up an inch.
By the way, I just want to be clear to everyone who's listening right now.
Yeah.
What Andrew is describing is his fantasy.
My fantasy.
He desperately needs for there to be a bezel-less iPad or a MacBook Air.
Isaac Asimov wrote about this many, many years ago about the bezel-less.
It was predicted.
Yeah. So it's about to happen.
Series or whatever.
But
or one of the robot books or something.
But it's about time, right? Yeah. I can't And listen, I could be wrong. I'm always wrong about these things. When it comes to Apple, I'm always wrong about this stuff that they put out.
Oh yeah.
I
Everyone
don't
is.
see Apple saying, okay, you know what? We're just gonna have a bigger iPad now, and forget about everything else.
No, it can't just be a bigger. It has to, the iPod, I'm sorry, hello. The iPhone 6 Plus supports a couple of things you don't see elsewhere in the iPhone line. The ability to rotate the screen and have those kind of dual pane apps, which is kind of an iPad feature, right? Very unique to that device. I expect if and when they do, because I think they will do this Pro device, whatever they call it, this is going to be a frontal attack on Surface. And like I said, it has to have that kind of keyboard integration, some form of keyboard, an Apple keyboard, like a MacBook Air style keyboard that can clip onto this
That'd
thing.
be great.
And some functionality, which by definition would come from the Mac. In other words, Pro support for Pro apps, or new iPad Pro apps, or something that are designed for keyboard and possibly a pointing device, not just for touch. Like it would be probably the beginning of the end for the Mac, in the sense that if this thing evolves the way it should, they'll start selling more of those than they sell MacBook Airs and other Macs, because it's an iPad, and so
Yeah.
it has to, there has to be that support. Like Adobe has to be on board with their apps. Microsoft might be on board with Office, et cetera, et cetera. So again, that one is not clear for this event. But if they're going to do that thing, it can't just have a bigger screen.
No, it can't have a bigger screen.
It has to be much more than that.
And that's the only reason why I'm thinking this screen, and we're only going based on a screen. There's been no cases, nothing leaked, right?
There's been nothing. It's been kind of interesting.
That's my big conspiracy, that Apple leaks all this stuff on their own.
Yeah.
They control the leaked information that comes out.
Sure.
But
bastards.
Yeah, welcome. This is the conspiracy show, Paul. This is the theory. We're just going to sit here and dim the lights, smoke cigarettes.
Conspiracy theory show would be awesome, by the way.
Yeah, I've been trying to work on it for 2 years now, and I'm having a difficult time.
Did you see the recent evidence, and I'm going to use the word, air quotes around the word evidence, that Hitler, in fact, escaped from Germany at the end of World War II.
To Argentina.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
I have. I so want that to be true, though.
Yeah, everyone does, but it's ludicrous. Yeah. I mean, that's just ludicrous.
You know what would make people, start speaking in tongues and passing out during this procedure, during this event? If Apple says, okay, here's the deal. We're going to have this iPad Pro device is a combination of the Air, like you said, but it also runs, when you dock it, it's running it's running Yosemite. When you take it off, it's smart enough to know that you're running an iOS.
Right. And that way they're not sacrificing on either end of it.
Either end. That's the only thing that I could see a Pro model doing, because I don't care how many times you call it a Pro model, and I don't care how good of a keyboard you add to this. It's still not, if you just have iOS on here with a better keyboard, do you consider it a Pro model? Do you think you're going to have Enterprise, which that's Pro, right? Enterprise. Is Enterprise going to adopt this device?
So
you still
possibly.
can't multitask, really.
You got to remember, in the business space, Apple has already seen amazing success with their devices. And the reason is it started from the top. There was a cachet, a sort of social cachet to them, and CEO wanted them to, muckety mucks wanted them, and the sales team wanted them, and eventually they kind of made their way down. And of course, today we have, and by the way, largely thanks to Apple, we have really pervasive BYOD technologies, mobile device management and so forth. I don't know, to me, a lot of people can get a lot done in kind of a web app type thing. And the mobile apps on mobile platforms like iOS are a step up from that by and large. So, yeah, it's not a terrible message that we can simplify your infrastructure.
Sure.
And that's what Google's doing with Chromebook, right? And Google Apps for Work, or Google for Work, whatever that whole initiative is. The whole theory there is we're going to simplify, and we're going to make it cheaper in Google's case. And companies like that, there are compatibility issues, obviously. I think Microsoft has a nice stranglehold when it comes to Office document compatibility and all that kind of stuff. But, for a lot of companies that are coming up in the world now, That's not a concern, and
Yeah.
this is an area where Apple could do some damage. And so you had said something earlier, like just iOS, or however you said it. I mean, I, I would think of that as an advantage. I think iOS is a better message to the enterprise than is Mac OS.
Well, the simplicity of it, yeah. I mean, it is a better message because it's easier to understand. It's less work and it's more productive because it's limited.
Mac
right?
OS 10 is just something that's as wonky and complicated
as Windows.
and stupid as Windows.
Yeah.
But it's just completely incompatible. And by the way, no one there understands it.
Yeah.
Whereas mobile device management is standardized across all device types, and it works consistently everywhere. And they already want Apple devices. So I would, I mean, as a technology guy, like your, screen is an iPad, bottom is a Mac. I'm like, yeah, that sounds awesome. But Apple would never make. That's a Frankenstein's monster.
You know what I think of when I think of a Pro model, and this is where it gets a little tricky for them.
Yeah.
If they started to offer features in iOS for that Pro model and not offer it for their other models, like the snapping, like Windows does a great job.
Oh no, I think
where
they
you can
have to
snap
do that.
it.
I actually do think they're going to do that.
That's what I think
That's why
too.
I mentioned iPhone 6 Plus, because you only see a couple of things there, and none of them are. Well, no, one of them is hard. Though they have optical image stabilization. That's just a one version thing. But there are hardware and software differentiators in that device that are not just the size of the screen, and they have to do that with an iPad Pro.
Yeah, I mean the multitasking.
And possibly take it further.
Surface works, RT works because you could have your applications next to each other. It's.
They would have to do that too.
You
Yes,
have to do
absolutely.
that. If you're calling this a Pro model, you can't just have the standard iOS software-wise. Hardware-wise, I don't know what they'll put in this, but that's what I mean by it can't just be iOS.
Right. I agree with that.
It has to have.
It can't just be a bigger screen.
Yeah, it can't just be.
By the
a
way,
bigger
so
screen.
we've spent a lot of time talking about this thing.
Yeah.
There's an excellent chance they're not going to mention this
Oh yeah,
Thursday.
yeah.
So,
There's a great chance.
I think there will be some form of new Macs, right? Whether or not it's the MacBook Air with the Retina, Mac Mini, iMacs. I think Retina iMacs have been rumored for a while now. Retina HD iMac or whatever.
I don't think we're going to see an Apple TV.
Apple TV absolutely needs to. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I don't know either. But I mean, these are all things that. By the way, new iPods. iPods haven't been updated in 2 years. And does the iPod Touch take on the iPad? It's too many i.
I'm gonna.
Does it take on the iPhone 6 body style, screen size, etc.? That would be a very interesting device. An iPod Touch media player that was an iPhone 6 without a phone.
It's going to be interesting. The scary thing here is that 9 to 5 Mac is not going into overdrive with, leaked rumors. That says a lot about this event.
Yeah, what are the insane Apple blogs writing about these days? There's got to be. That's actually a bad sign because there was so much stuff. I saw a story about the popularity of Apple events, and the iPhone event is the biggest kind of tech project launch of the year. I'm just doing this off the top of my head. I could be completely wrong with these numbers, but it's 3 or 4 times as big as any Samsung launch. But it's also 3 or 4 times as big as the iPad stuff. And so the iPad is still a big deal, this event Thursday. But it's in the scheme of things, it doesn't register as strongly as iPhone does. iPhone is Apple's biggest business by far. And it's funny when I'm looking at some Apple sites now.
There's not much.
In the build up to iPhone 6, you couldn't get enough of this stuff.
You know how many cases I saw for months? How many mock-ups? How many Chinese factory leaks there were? You know what I see?
Probably more stories about iPhone 6 now than there are about the new iPads.
Yeah, I'm looking. Latest iPad Air 2 component leak. Okay, so that's guaranteed because it has an Apple logo. And then there's some mock-ups. And then there's an opinion piece, and it says, opinion. What can we expect from the Retina iMac, and who will buy it? Well, it's just a question. Concept images of iPad refresh with iPhone 6 design. Okay, kind of makes sense, right? And then it's a Yosemite update. I'm not seeing anything. I mean, really. Retina MacBook Air unlikely to be announced this week.
Unlikely, yeah.
Unlikely.
So we'll see.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. All right, Paul.
I mean, it's not as big a deal as the iPhone.
Somebody keeps butt dialing me throughout the show, and I've gotten 6 calls from him in the last 30 minutes.
Huh.
This is insane, actually. He keeps flooding my voicemail with 3-minute voicemails of nothing. So it's a little irritating. But anyway, time to wrap it up. If you're watching live, you can watch our... Oh, yeah, there's a Google event tomorrow also. I totally forgot about that before we end the show.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What kind of Google event?
They're going to announce the Google
9.
6 and 9. The Nexus 6 and 9. So I'm hoping that...
I'm thinking the Nexus phone is going to be too big.
The Nexus phone is going to be... Yeah, because it's 6 inches.
Yeah. It's too big.
Yeah. We'll see. Well, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe the display will just be bigger and the size of the phone won't be.
Yeah, it's
Again,
too big.
bezel-less. This is... If I was a sci-fi writer in the 1950s and 60s, I would be writing about bezel-less everything. Bezels would not exist in my universe.
Right.
I
I'm sure
totally...
Asimov mentioned it bezel-less.
I totally skipped over computers and automation, all that. I'm just going right into bezel-less. Talking about bezels on anything. Doesn't matter. You go to our website, gfknetwork.com, if you miss any portion of the show. If you're watching live, stay tuned. We will be recording What to Talk, our post show, our wrap-up show, our bonus show for Patreon. You can support us by going to patreon.com/whatthetech. Also, I want to thank Harry's for supporting What the Tech. Go to Harry's, get $5 off by using code WhatTheTech at checkout. WinSuperSat.com, all things Paul Thurrott. Follow Paul on Twitter at Thurrott. You can follow me at Andrew Zarian on Twitter. Also, tomorrow, if you're in the New York City area, I'm actually on Tom Merritt's show tomorrow, Daily Tech News Show. Tom is here in New York. I'm going to his apartment here in New York. We're going to be recording Daily Tech News Show at 4:30, so I should be there around 4.
I said hello.
I will. You know, everybody loves you. And everyone's like, tell Paul I say hello.
I love Tom. He's a great guy.
Brilliant guy, great journalist. I mean, phenomenal. So I'm so glad that he asked me to come on. I'm going to be there. And after the show, we're going to have a meetup in the West Village. I'll tell you where. This is bad radio because I'm not prepared for this. So let's find out where the meetup is. Now I'm searching for Tom's email. It's in the Village. It will be at... Anybody in the chat know? It'll be at the Peter McCannis Cafe. It's a bar. Located 152 7th Avenue in Manhattan. 7 p.m. is the meetup. I'm going to be there. I believe Ayaz is going to be there. Tom's going to be there. Maybe Mary Jo's going to be there. I wonder if MJ's going.
Yeah.
I know it's not the Rattle and Hum, so... But if not, I'm going to ping her and tell her. Maybe she doesn't know about it. I'd love for her to go there. But we're all going to hang out. It's going to be a nice little get-together. We're going to be drinking. You can watch me drink. You can watch me get drunk. Come say hello. I won't bite. Do you remember at the last meetup, MJ was saying that people were, like, afraid to come up to me?
No.
She's like, oh, all these people came up. They're like, oh, look, Andrew's here. And nobody would come and say hello to you. It's the beard and the hair. I'll make them disappear. That's what they think.
Are you carrying a dagger or something?
No, I just go poof because I do magic. Remember?
Right, just do magic. Like
look at this. I'm getting another call.
Rabbits were everywhere.
I'm getting another call from this person. I wonder if I should answer it on there. Should we do that? I'm just gonna hang up. All right, guys. That's it for this week. See you all next week. Bye bye.